Happy New Year, everyone, as we say goodbye to the awful stink that was 2020. For WWE, however, 2020 has been a bloody lovely time when it comes to the bank balance. Their Q3 earnings report shows the company earned $221 million, with $48.4 million of that being profit. That's for one quarter. Thanks to their amazing television deals, WWE's revenue was up 18.9% and profits were up 721.1%, which is probably why they released loads of talent this year, most of which during the early days of a global pandemic when they would struggle to get work. Around 60 to 70 names were released in 2020, ranging from NXT recruits to top-level stars on the main rosters, and celebrities brought in for an audience that couldn't actually go in and see the product. I'm Luke Owen. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to WrestleTalk for more great content like this. Here is everyone released from WWE in 2020 and where they are now, for the most part. Starting in January, we had two releases from the NXT UK brand in the form of Jazzy Gabert and Killer Kelly. The alpha female hadn't really done much on the NXT UK brand apart from being the enforcer for Ginny for a bit. She asked about going to Raw or SmackDown, but was told creative had nothing for her, so she decided not to renew her contract. She's now promoting Sirius Sports Entertainment in Germany. Killer Kelly similarly did very little on the brand, but recently featured on Impact Wrestling in their tournament for new Knockout Tag Team Champions. February saw Kathy Kelly announce on social media she was leaving WWE shortly after she made the jump from NXT to SmackDown. Her last day with the company was at NXT TakeOver Portland, and it now looks like she does cards and stuff on Etsy according to her Instagram, and that's pretty lovely, really. After being written off TV by Randy Orton, Matt Hardy announced on YouTube on March 2nd that he was not re-signing with WWE, and 16 days later debuted on AEW Dynamite. He was supposed to be part of the first ever Blood and Guts match, which was canned, and has since feuded with Sammy Guevara, which resulted in several nasty spills, botches, and injuries. On April 10th, both Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder released from their WWE contracts and debuted in AEW on the May 27th episode of Dynamite as Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler of FTR. They've since become AEW Tag Team Champions and had a Match of the Year contender against the Young Bucks at Full Gear. And then the mass releases came in. Now, I've basically got them in alphabetical order, so here we go. Aidan English was released and is currently a free agent. Kurt Hawkins got cut and is now in Impact as Brian Myers, as is Deonna Purrazzo and EC3, who is also doing work with Ring of Honor. Dan Mather is currently a free agent, as are Epico and his brother Primo Colon, whereas Eric Young became Impact World Champion and had a brilliant title match against Rich Swann at Bound for Glory. Heath Slater is also now in Impact, as are former Quizzlemania Tag Team Champions Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, who are currently the Impact Tag Team Champions. The pair also started their own promotion called Talkin' Shopper Mania, which is amazing. Spanish announcer Jerry Soto was released, as was Cassius Ohno, who surprisingly is still a free agent back under the name of Chris Hero. WWE Hall of Famer and Ollie Davis's favourite wrestler Kurt Angle was also fired and is now jacked. And after plenty of controversy last year, Leo Rush was cut from his WWE contract and has since appeared for GCW in a match with Joey Janela, joined MLW, and was part of New Japan's Super J Cup. Mike and Maria Kanellis were both cut, and Mike has since gone back to Ring of Honor to reunite with Matt Taven. Long-term referee Mike Chioda was released and has since appeared in All Elite Wrestling. No Way Jose and Eric Rowan were also part of the cut, but neither man has done much of note, although Rowan, now wrestling as Eric Redbeard, competed in the United Wrestling Network World Title Tournament, getting knocked out in the first round by DQ. I'm sure the 10 people that saw it enjoyed it. Rusev got his wish and was out of WWE and now plays video games on Twitch and is part of the AEW roster as Miro in a team with Kip Sabian. Sarah Logan was the only female of the main roster to get cut and is currently preparing to give birth to her first child. Both Serena Deeb and Tainara Conte from NXT were cut, both of which are now in All Elite Wrestling, with Deeb also winning the NWA Women's Championship from Thunder Rosa. Tony Chimmel was given his marching orders, and Zack Ryder got his cut from WWE, heading straight to AEW to do nothing of note. Several backstage producers were also furloughed during these cuts, but most of them have since come back, like Pat Buck, Hurricane Helms, and Fit Finlay. However, Sean Daivari was released and appeared on Impact's Bound for Glory show, and Sarah Stock was officially released in September, as were Gerald, Briscoe, and Mike Rotunda. Briscoe was in WWE recently to mark the passing of Pat Patterson and announced in October he was launching a podcast with JBL to tell stories that have never been heard. And given how many wrestling podcasts there are by wrestlers telling wrestling stories, these will have to be some crazy ass tales to get noticed. One of the more surprising releases because his run was so bizarre was Kane Velasquez. The former UFC champion was in a bidding war between WWE and AEW in 2019, eventually choosing WWE and debuted on the Fox premiere of SmackDown attacking new WWE champion Brock Lesnar. The two had a match at Crown Jewel, which totally buried Velasquez as a serious title contender, and he was supposed to be in the Royal Rumble, even telling journalists back in January that he was going to be in the match. Sadly, he picked up an injury and was taken out of it, and was then released. So, I guess that's that. Also cut in April were Tino Sabatelli and Cesar Bononi, both of which appeared on AEW Dark. However, Sabatelli is an interesting one as he has reportedly re-signed with WWE and was accused by Chris Jericho of leaking AEW results and spoiling the return of Eric Bischoff. Bononi, however, is still doing work with AEW. To round off this lot of mass firings, Alexander Jasic, Alyssa Marino, Edgar Lopez, Faisal Kurdi, Kendo Kashin, Hussein Aldegal, Marcos Gomez, Mars Wang, Mohamed Fahim, Nick Ogarelli, and Ye Fing were all cut. Sadly, there isn't much known of their whereabouts or what they've been up to, and I'm sorry if I said any of their names wrong. I'm very British and very white. Into May, and it was reported that Sting was no longer under WWE contract after his quote-unquote classic with Triple H at WrestleMania and potentially career-ending match with Seth Rollins. This sparked a lot of rumors that he would join AEW after he started to interact with their talent on Twitter. Rumors which intensified when his merchandise was taken off of WWEshop.com. And it would appear those rumors were true. Take that comment that thought I was being clickbaity when I said he would debut at Full Gear, appearing on the Winter is Coming episode of AEW Dynamite in one of the best wrestling moments of 2020. It was announced that he'd signed a multi-year deal with the company and started teasing matches with the likes of Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin. In June, the wrestling world was shaken up by the Speaking Out movement, where many came forward to talk about their experiences of sexual and emotional assault in the sport. This particularly affected the British wrestling scene, and several men who were accused were released from their WWE contracts, including Jack Gallagher, Travis Banks, and El Ligero. June also saw the release of Rob Gronkowski, who had signed with WWE just 2 months earlier to promote WrestleMania. WWE had big plans for the Gronk, with reports saying he was going to have matches at both SummerSlam and whatever the November Saudi Arabia show was going to be called. But COVID changed all of that, and he exercised a clause in his contract that allowed him to mutually leave the company and rejoin the NFL to score a home run or catch the snitch. I don't know sports. According to Fightful Select, a member of the WWE roster called him, quote, a clown who we are so much better off without, end quote. He is, however, the longest reigning 24/7 champion, so he's got that going for him. The person hurt the most here is Mojo Rawley, who dropped his Taserface gimmick to be the side piece to Gronk's clown show and hasn't been on TV since. Wait a minute, let me just get this ready. On April 21st, 2020, the Patriots, which still owned Gronkowski's rights, traded him to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers along with a 7th-round pick in exchange for a compensatory 4th-round pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. Citation 191. The trade reunited him with his former Patriots quarterback Brady, who had signed with the Buccaneers a month prior. Citation 192. Head coach Bruce Arians stated that it was Brady himself who was adamant for the team to trade for Gronkowski. 193. On October 18, 2020, Gronkowski caught 5 passes for 78 yards and his first touchdown with the Buccaneers in a 38-10 victory over the Green Bay Packers. It was Gronkowski's first touchdown since December 9, 2018 against the Miami Dolphins, 194, and in Week 12 against the Kansas City Chiefs, Gronkowski recorded 6 catches for 106 yards during the 27-24 loss, 195. Thank you, Wikipedia Sports. Kairi Sane's WWE main roster run can be summed up with concussion at TLC, concussion on Raw, and being a friend of Asuka. She was written out of storylines in July, and WWE officially announced she left the company, airing an emotional final week video on YouTube. She returned in October, however, working as an ambassador for WWE and even did Japanese commentary for Hell in a Cell. Renee Young shockingly left WWE in August, with SummerSlam being her last show. Young was one of the most underutilized and misused talents that the company has had in quite a while, with her commentary run being marred by WWE's terrible backstage production and her presenting skills being botched on WWE Backstage because it wasn't the warts and all show it was promoted to be. Young herself said that she left WWE because they cancelled Backstage, and has since launched a cookbook, a podcast called Oral Sessions, and announced in November she's pregnant. Seriously, you should go listen to her podcast. It's great, and she's great. It's easy to forget, but AOP were part of Seth Rollins' Messiah gimmick faction along with Buddy Murphy in March of this year. However, Razor suffered a bicep injury, and in WWE, if one of your tag team is out, then Creative has nothing for you. And Creative had so little for them, they were released from their contracts on September 4th. Their 90-day non-compete is now up, but the team hasn't shown up anywhere yet. And finally, in November, WWE announced they had come to terms with the release of Zelena Vega, who came to blows with the company when they announced a third-party ban on things like Twitch, which Vega was reportedly earning more money from than her WWE contract, which is a damning indictment of how much WWE pay their talent. Outside of Paige, Vega was the most vocal proponent of WWE's Twitch ban and has since been in discussions with industry professionals about wrestling unionization. So that was everyone released from WWE in 2020. Who do you miss and where do you want to see them end up? Let us know in the comments down below. Please click the videos on screen for more great content like this and subscribe to WrestleTalk for daily wrestling videos. I've been Luke Owen. Jam that jam.